Oakland Raiders, are they ready to be fantasy relevant? Maybe not this year, but they're probably pretty close. They got some big names, through the draft, and they're starting to work their way into a pretty decent offense. I think we'll see some flashes here and there for week to week, but not overthink anything substantial. But there's some nice guys worth mentioning here in Oakland. So I'm Jason Gilbo here at Fantasy Football Cafe, taking a look at the Oakland Raiders today. So let's jump into the run game, which was kind of non-existent last season. You've had McFadden there for the last couple of years, who hasn't really gotten anything going. Latavius Murray is going to be the lead back in 2015 with slightly below average offensive line. But he rushed for 5.2 yards per carry on 82 attempts last season. Big back, 6'3", nice speed. He's got 4.38 40. Pretty good pass blocker. Decent guy in the passing game, but I think with the signing of Roy Holu, it's going to cut into the passing game from Murray. So that's something there. But there is some hype being brought up around him coming into draft, and it's kind of made his draft stock rose a little bit here, which is a little disappointing because I think there's still some question marks with the Raiders and Murray, and I would much rather take the risk later on down the road. Like I said, the Raiders signed Roy Holu. Could cut into Murray's workload if the Raiders are starting to gun the ball. That could be an issue, and obviously the Raiders are probably going to be playing from behind quite a bit. How much is Murray actually going to run at a game to be consistent and get touches? I don't want to have to rely on a big play of his to get any sort of fantasy value on a weekly standpoint. So that's really my issue with Murray. I do like Holu as a late round grab because I could see him possibly snagging a lot of touches out of the backfield, especially with them being behind. He's a pretty decent runner, and also keeps things fairly balanced, so you got to like Holu there. I think he's a great backup, great guy in deeper leagues, flex spot. I think he's going to work his way into this offense pretty nicely. Looking at the passing game, you got Amari Cooper. They just drafted out of Alabama, arguably the top wideout in the draft. And they added, Michael Crabtree for a year to see what he can do. If Crabtree puts up a decent season, on the other side of Cooper, who puts up a decent season, you could see a pretty nice passing game from a streamer standpoint, where you maybe stream over a couple 2 to 3 weeks, or you're really riding those guys and keeping them, rotating them in and out. That's kind of where I see him. Obviously, Cooper's going to have a little more value, being the number one guy already. And kind of all the hype there building into him, you're definitely going to want to keep him on your team. So Carr really has an upgraded core around him this season, but I don't think it's just going to click just yet. Look back at 2014, Carr had a pretty successful season if you want to take in all the factors around him, being in Oakland, the talent around him not being there, the offensive line being bad, the no run game, no Amari Cooper, no Michael Crabtree. 3,200 yards, 21 touchdowns, but a pretty low 5.4 yards per attempt. Check down a lot of times, 58% completion rating, not bad there, or not really that great there. I think the yardage is going to come up this season, but the touchdowns for upside is pretty average. I don't think it's going to be a ton. So I like him, backup streamer guy, just because the touchdowns are pretty limited. And bringing us back to Cooper and Crabtree, I think 5 to 6 over the course of the season for each of them is probably a pretty good floor, but I think the ceiling for that is probably not much higher. I think that's going to be the case for this season. Next year, you may see a bigger boost out of those two, or out of Cooper and Carr, and depending on what else they do. So, not yet this year, but could be in the wings for the future. So. Can't see him making any massive steps, but like I said, next year should be a better year.